From WHYY, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, winter meetings preview. The winter meetings are this week in Orlando, Florida, and all of the executives from all of the teams. Yes, I think even the Pirates and the Marlins are going to send executives to the winter meetings this time around. I know it's
the Rockies hired a general manager in time to go to the winter meetings. Have fun.
What do you know? I mean, there's a process. They actually seem to be part of the process. So the Phillies will absolutely be a major part of the process. At least there will be a lot of rumors. We'll see how much they actually get done next week or this coming week here at the winter meetings. And we're going to discuss some of the things that they might do, the big topics as we head into these all-important winter meetings as this team tries to put together a roster to get another crack at winning a World Series that has eluded them for these last few years. So Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher joining me here on the roundtable. Justin, of course, from Baseball Prospectus. He also hosts podcasts for our Hittin Season Patreon, The Dirty Inning and Absolutely Hammered. Follow him on Blue Sky at Justin Klugh, and also author of the forthcoming book, Summer of the Cheap Wieners, which is a fantastic Christmas present for you to pre-order. So do that. Justin, how you feeling, bud?
Yeah, you can pre-order that on the Brookline Books website. But an even bigger celebration, I think, to be had is the annual tradition of we had our first boob Nightengale moment.
Yeah. This was good. I'm glad somebody brought this up. Yes, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Zach Gallen, a pitcher that anybody signing is thinking, well, maybe it'll work for us. Like, he's coming off a rough one. But he pitched well, from August to the end of the year. So it's a starting pitching market where people are, if they don't want to pay too much, then Gallen is exactly the kind of pitcher they're going to go for. So, Bob Nightengale tweets out that the Cubs are
USA,
close
just for people who aren't as neck deep in this as we are. Bob Nightengale, featured senior baseball reporter for USA Today. Go ahead.
Who is famous for making typos, let's say, really embarrassing typos that he never corrects.
Well, since we're laying it all out there, why don't I just provide even further context and say that when I was coming up as an ink-stained little journo intern, one of the worst things you could do was put information out there presented as real information that was in fact factually incorrect. This is how Bob Nightengale, one of the premier national baseball writers in the country, has operated for decades, at least over one decade. Like, there is usually about once a year a Bob Nightengale report that is just flat out wrong. Unfortunately for Bob. And unfortunately for Bob. Unfortunately for Bob. That happened again this past week when he said that the Chicago Cubs and Zach Gallen were finalizing an agreement on a multi-year deal. He even had a number that would pay $22 million a year. He was throwing details in there. And Jeff Passan, in a tweet that you can hear an exasperated sigh at the beginning
Jeff Passan. Yep.
Sorry, I'm doing a bad job with context here. But you could hear like this exasperated sigh come out before this tweet where he just says, Zach Gallen does not have a deal and is not close to finalizing one.
Yeah. I mean, so let me just intone the Jeff Passan tweet. Like Justin said, there's a big sigh at the beginning. Zach Gallen does not have a deal with the Chicago Cubs, and a deal is not even close. I think, if we're reading into Jeff's tweet, which I would kind of like to do. Interestingly, he didn't put it on Threads this time, I don't think. But Jeff Passan
come on, Bob, you're making me do this. Like,
I guess I have to do this, man. God.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Just so everyone's aware, it is still considered a big deal if you're a journalist and you post information that
that's what I hear.
You didn't just get a detail wrong. You got the whole thing wrong. I mean, like, it's either you signed him or you didn't sign him. Like, who are you? He listened to the wrong guy. That's what this is. He listened.
This is like a whole deal. He's got all these boxes checked. He knows that it's a multi-year deal. He knows the player. He knows the team. He knows the numbers. And Jeff Passan's like, this does not exist. This simply isn't from our reality. So I don't know where this is coming from.
I'd just like to point out that I no longer have a job as a professional sports writer, and Bob does. I just want to point this out. Who went through it's so much agita making sure that I, at every point, had everything correct all the time, so I didn't misquote. I didn't, incorrectly cite someone. And Bob's just out there just making stuff up.
Making up signings.
Making stuff up. Like, he could have gotten this from an agent, but why or how? How?
If he's listening to the same people,
who gave it?
Why?
Who gave this to him? Who gave him a completely factless deal, a made-up deal that he reported? Because it's either that he made it up for funsies, or someone told him, and that just opens a whole bunch of other doors to what could be going on.
I hope that Zach Gallen finalizes a deal with the Cubs. I hope it's for more than 1 year. Later in the offseason, just like I hope, Bryce Harper's going to come out and hit 50 home runs next year because he had his blood swapped out of his body and put back in. We're laughing now, but if it works.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't understand what that was, so I'm going to talk about the Bryce Harper blood swapping thing in just a minute. But I want to first introduce Liz Roscher, the editor of
I haven't even been introduced yet.
No. Liz Roscher, the editor of Sabres Baseball Research Journal. Follow her on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Liz, have you had your blood swapped lately?
No. I'm sad to say that I haven't, as a 42-year-old white woman who lives in a mid-Atlantic state. Like, no, I haven't. I haven't had it.
Can somebody explain to me? Somebody explain to me the Bryce Harper blood swapping thing? Like, what was he talking about?
No.
Okay, great. Moving on. I don't understand it.
He had a doctor whose nickname might have been Doctor, who I believe is a chiropractor.
So not a doctor.
He's a chiropractor who, I believe, as it was laid out, there's no evidence that he completed his thesis while attaining a degree from Johns Hopkins.
Even worse.
And
not a chiropractor.
Basically just a sea of dubious or questionable addendums, let's say, to the accreditations of this medical professional.
Yeah.
And for
Heavy
anyone
scare
not watching
quotes.
the video, there were finger quotes involved there. And I'm pulling this from memory. I'm not sure it deserves much more research than that, but I believe the process involves taking the blood out of your body, exposing it to oxygen outside of your body, and then it goes, correct me if I'm wrong here, back into your body. And people were saying this is something Lance Armstrong did, but then other people were saying no, it wasn't. It has been characterized as needless dialysis.
That seems about right.
And I'll say, look, honestly, when you're thinking about stuff like this in regards to the players and everything and what they do, or just any topic in general, I try to think about the other side, if maybe I disagree with it, and try to present that argument first to just try and understand it. And the broader I have to get when I do that, the less I probably agree with the point I'm making. So when I look for the positives here, what I see is Bryce Harper is always very eager to bring this stuff to us. He puts it on. He said more to come after he posted this on his social media channels. He said more videos on other stuff to come. So who knows what's coming, but he is very excited. Despite like the tight lid on the locker room and everything we're always talking about, he is always very excited, like a child bringing you a drawing of a man getting needless dialysis to put on your refrigerator. He comes to you very excited. You say, "This is great, Bryce. That's fantastic. Hey, how about hitting some more of those home runs we like? That seems pretty cool too." So
there's a picture, I think from his Instagram here, and here's the doctor giving the the Hawaiian dealing like this. Yeah, we're drawing blood. Bryce Harper right there, standing behind him. And so it's called, oh my gosh, he said, I had 1/3 of his blood drawn out and then returned to his body. Phillies star Bryce Harper revealed in an Instagram that he underwent extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation procedure, which he explained to fans. It's a procedure in which 1/3 of your blood is drawn from your body, passed through a filtration and ozonation device, and then returned to your bloodstream. It circulates your blood outside your body, exposes the blood to ozone, and will oxygenate or filter the blood before returning it to you. Harper said the process will improve circulation, reduce inflammation, fight infections, support immune function, remove toxins, increase energy, and allow him to speak with squirrels. So, no, that's the last one. It says, my guy, Dr. Josh Red, is a magician. Well, there you go. He's not a doctor. He's a magician. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's just as qualified to be one of those.
I hope it does all of those things.
I do too.
I think at the end of the day, this is dubious science. The fact that you don't see or hear of normal people doing this kind of tells you all you need to know. But
you aren't rich enough to have unlocked secret science too, which rich people have access to.
Yeah.
It's alternative science that's just better.
Yeah, just better. At the end of the day, it's probably fine that, if Bryce Harper believes in this, and if he believes it's helping him, and he's so eager to share it with us because he wants us to know he's trying whatever he can and working hard for us. And I appreciate that. And even though this is silly and ridiculous and needless and money he's giving to a clear charlatan who has very little medical training and shouldn't be doing this at all, how in God's name did this man get a hold of the equipment to do this? I assume it's probably actually very easy. Yeah, as long as he believes it's helping him, I guess that's fine. He's not trying to sell us anything yet.
I'd love to know what the Phillies front office thinks about this kind of thing. What the medical training
I'd love
staff
to know what
thinks about this kind of thing.
That's what I was going to say.
Bryce Harper's going to do his own thing. And so, will it result in more home runs in 2026? We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Nobody's going to stop Bryce Harper from doing anything.
Right.
No.
Yeah, his fingers. Listen, if you want to take out your spleen, and just massage it in the open air and return it to your body because it'll give you an extra 10 points on your slugging percentage, have at it, man.
Take it to a park, treat it to a nice meal, and then return it to your body.
That's fine. All right, we did promise a winter meetings preview. We probably should start that at some point here during the podcast. So let's get going on that now.
Let's do it.
The big topics with the Phillies and everybody that you see talking about the winter meetings and talking about the Phillies is, of course, focusing on Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto. We have been focused on them, of course, this offseason because it does seem as though nothing is going to happen this offseason until a decision is made specifically with regards to Kyle Schwarber. And we're hearing a lot of different things about Kyle Schwarber. The Phillies are still the favorite to re-sign him. It's reported he wants a 5-year deal. It was reported by Todd Zolecki last week that the two sides were not close. It seems as though no one has been ready yet to go to 5 years for Kyle Schwarber. That seems to be the scuttlebutt. John Heyman here on Sunday night talked about a few different teams in on Kyle Schwarber. The Mets, the Red Sox, the Reds seem to be the three teams showing the most interest. But, the Pirates and the Orioles were mentioned in there as well. I can't imagine that being a real thing.
No.
But the Phillies are still regarded to be the favorites to re-sign Kyle Schwarber here, but the market is reportedly picking up as the winter meetings get underway. Obviously, Justin, once you start the winter meetings and a guy hits free agency and you have other teams bidding for you, anything can happen. And you're talking about the Reds, his quote-unquote hometown team, are in the mix. You've got the Mets now apparently are sniffing around. It's unclear if they really want Kyle Schwarber or if they're just trying to drive the price up for the Phillies. Would Kyle Schwarber actually go play for the Mets, knowing how he'd be received in Philadelphia if he did so? The Red Sox, they've got more pressing concerns, it would appear to me, other than spending all that money on a designated hitter, but maybe not. Who's to say? What percentage odds, Justin, do you give the Phillies signing Kyle Schwarber at the winter meetings?
Like 95%, I would say. Yeah, I really... there's at this point, until we get to what are potential alternatives, there's not a whole lot more to add, because I think a lot of this, outside of the main vein of Phillies and Schwarber, they both have interest in each other and they both want to get back together. Outside of that, all the little side branches of this that kind of naturally develop during free agency, all the little options of who checked in and who's interested, none of it has really been at a believable level based on what team was involved or what it would take. And if people are already saying, there's still time, but if they're holding up at 5 years already, it's kind of yeah, all right. Well, I feel like the most realistic option is going to be the one that works out for everyone the best. And I think everyone knows the direction they're headed in. And I'd be very stunned if he wound up playing for another team, especially a team like the Pirates or Reds.
All right, Liz, same question. What percentage?
I'll say about 80. I was going to say about 80 before I heard Justin, and now I am sticking with 80. I I will say I got distracted because Ken Rosenthal tweeted about 5 minutes ago. I'm hearing on the eve of the winter meetings, Pirates actually make an offer to free agent Kyle Schwarber.
Wow.
Let's have a look here.
Interesting.
It's on The Athletic.
I'm happy to have talked you into the answer you were already going to give.
I know. Thank you.
That's
Justin,
convincing.
you are as smooth devil, you know?
I'm a natural politician, you know?
That's right.
And that's why you still believe what you did at the beginning of this debate.
I'll say, as far as the news I just quote-unquote reported to you all, the Pirates have apparently only given out one contract of $100 million, and this offer must be for more than $100 million. That doesn't mean they're serious.
Okay.
Yeah.
He also has to want to go to Pittsburgh, too.
Yeah, and I don't think he does. Part. I mean, listen,
I would be surprised.
Growing up near Cincinnati, he's used to a mid-major. Cincinnati, Columbus, almost any city in Ohio. He's used to a mid-major city, and that's exactly what Pittsburgh is. It's like a nice small little city that you can get your arms around, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy being there. But I don't think Kyle Schwarber, after spending all this time in Philadelphia, the thing that I think of, does he want to start all the way over again?
Yeah, because that's what he would be doing.
That's what he would have to do. Yeah. Why do that? Why spend all that time rebuilding what you already have here with a team that seems poised to go to the World Series if, the wind blows right one day, finally.
Right. I mean, and that's why of the two small market teams we're talking about here, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, why the Reds make more sense than Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the Reds are still far away, but you can at least talk yourself into that, given that they went to the playoffs last year, given that they have Ellie De La Cruz, given that they have Terry Francona as their manager. They have a pretty good pitching staff. So, I mean, yes, Ken Rosenthal reporting the Pirates have made free agent DH Kyle Schwarber a 4-year offer, according to people briefed on the discussions, almost certainly for more than $100 million. He says the Pirates remain a long shot. The most likely landing spot remains his previous team, the Phillies. The Red Sox are among the big market clubs with known interest. The Reds, Schwarber's hometown team, are also making a push. The only $100 million contract the Pirates ever gave out, do you guys know who it was?
Can you give us the time frame? It was in the last
it's been in the last 5 or 6 years. He's currently still on their team.
Yeah. Reynolds.
Brian Reynolds.
That's what I was going to say.
A $106 million contract extension. Well done. So, again, yeah, I'm with you, Justin. I think I'd have the odds closer to 95 to 98% that he returns to Philadelphia for the reason I just stated. I think the Red Sox...
we were doing whether he signs at the winter meetings or not. I think he returns to Philadelphia, definitely, almost.
Okay, I mean, I guess I wasn't really clear about that. I think he's signing at the winter meetings. I don't think this is lasting past the winter meetings. I think there's a 0% chance he is not signed before the week is out next week. So I guess I'm kind of going off that assumption based on everything that's been reported. Mm-hmm. He wants to get this done early. He doesn't want to let this linger into Christmas and all that. So I think this gets done this week. So my question about the percentages is more like, where's he end up? And so you're closer to 100%, Liz?
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely ends up in Philly. It's just a question for how much and how long it's going to take everyone to get on the same page. Because again, Kyle Schwarber is younger than me, but around our age. How much do you guys want to start over somewhere?
No, for sure. And look, he's got
God no.
Cincinnati would be going home for
quote unquote, yeah.
But at that point, you're basically saying, I just want to be kind of comfortable for the rest of my career, as opposed
to Chris Bryant contract.
Yeah, as opposed to trying to win a World Series. And we know they've gotten so close, he's dying to win a World Series. Now, I think if the Phillies are sitting, we're not going past 2 years, which of course they're not doing, and the Reds come along with a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal, well, then Schwarber's probably, he only does that, I think, if he feels the Phillies are insulting him with a contract. So it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be the Red Sox, because the Red Sox need pitching. They really need to be focusing on signing a big starting pitcher. And they've got all this talent in the outfield and around the diamond. They got to replace Alex Bregman. So I think they're probably going to re-sign him to a free agent contract. The Reds are I don't think the Reds are close enough. The Pirates certainly are not close enough. And I don't think any of those teams are going to outbid the Phillies. So that leaves the Mets. And so that brings me to my next question. Let's just say that Kyle Schwarber doesn't sign with the Phillies. Like, we're all totally wrong about this. We are misreading the market. What team do you think is the most likely, Liz, that he ends up with? Where does he sign if it's not with Philadelphia?
I don't think he goes to the Mets. That would be a walk into the ocean scenario for me.
Because can you imagine the reception he would get coming back to Philadelphia? Like,
he'd be pelted with actual rotten vegetables like in the medieval times.
I don't think he'd want that.
No, he does not want to be pelted with vegetables like you're in the town square, like a thief.
In the stocks, no.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if he doesn't sign with Philly, then I'm going to guess he signs with the Reds because he wants to be close to where his family might still be. But that's it. I don't know. Like, I don't think there are a lot of other teams that are willing to go the amount of money that the Phillies will do. You know, if it's just a 4-year contract, they don't have to go 5. I think that's actually perfect.
Justin?
Well, you also know that the San Francisco Giants have contacted Kyle Schwarber's camp, which, yes, makes even less sense. Given that Rafael,
did he laugh when he's like, who is this? He's like, this is the Giants front office. Did he literally laugh and hang up the phone?
Because I think that's what most of them would do. He's going to go play for a college coach at this point?
Considering they have Rafael Devers through 2033 and have said today that Bryce Eldridge was technically available for trade talks, though they'd really only give him up for like Tarek Skubal. But like they're already going to be kind of like 2 power bats filling the same space that Schwarber would feel. The Giants are kind of just being like a ghostly little mystery, like kind of like just floating around being like, we're not interested in Tatsuya Imai. And like everyone's like, but what's their ultimate plan though? What are they doing? And they're like, you're going to have to find out. I can't imagine that plan as nuanced as it seems to be involves Kyle Schwarber. That's just much more of a blunt kind of like straightforward baseball acquisition, not like a magical fitting into whatever plan they have acquisition. It just kind of feels that way to me. So to answer the question, I mean, I think you just default go with the Reds because of all the connections that we've already made. It's the Mets. I don't know if fan reaction is a reason a guy wouldn't take a deal with the Mets. Like he might be dreading returning to Philadelphia with the Mets, but I don't know if that's like really in the way of him accepting a ludicrous amount of money or something, or the highest money that he gets offered. I really don't know if that's going to stop him. Like just knowing that he's got a couple of rough weekends next summer, but other than that, he's still going to be, the richest power hitter on the market. So I guess I don't know. I'm not as convinced that alone would stop him. I'm more convinced in that department that the constantly reported, interest between the Phillies and Kyle Schwarber indicates, the closest thing to guaranteed interest you can find in free agency. So I go with the Reds because I don't want to think about the Mets, even though I think it's not as unlikely as maybe we were saying.
Honestly, secretly, I think I'm with you, Justin, if I'm honest with myself. If you're looking for a team that can pay you a lot of money and is also close to winning a World Series, the Mets, probably of all the teams we're talking about, are that team. Now,
just got to be ready for some clubhouse fights.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he wants that. I don't think he wants that drama. I don't think he wants to go into a club. I mean, yes, he's a great clubhouse guy, and maybe he could fix some of the rifts that it seems like Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil are getting into. Juan Soto was fighting with teammates and stuff last year. Like, does Schwarber want to go into a Juan Soto? Not that Juan Soto's a bad guy, but like there's so much oxygen being sucked up in the Juan Soto room and all those other guys. Like, does he want to jump in there? Like, does he want to jump in that market? I mean, maybe he does. But I think if it's not the Phillies, I agree. I think it probably would be the Reds. I just can't imagine a world in which the Reds outbid the Phillies for Kyle Schwarber. So if it's truly like outbid and we're talking about trying to win a World Series, I think I got to say the Mets. If I'm being honest with myself, I think the most and I don't think it's going to happen. But if I'm checking, I'm trying to figure out what Kyle Schwarber's boxes are that he's trying to check. I think the Mets check more boxes than any of the other teams we're talking about. Maybe the Red Sox, maybe because he's been in Boston before. It's kind of a Kyle Schwarber-like market. I could see the Red Sox, him going back there. They're a little bit further away than the Mets, it seems, from winning a World Series, and I think from the Phillies as well, but they're not far. I mean, you could talk yourself into it based on some of the young talent they have there. But
if I'm Kyle Schwarber, and this is not based on any kind of factual reality, getting this locked in getting this locked in at the winter meetings quickly, as you said, before Christmas, and going into the holidays, knowing that that's over. All I got to do is train for spring training. I know what the next few years of my life are, barring X factors, are going to entail. I got job security. I got my money. I even already have a World Series ring, so ultimately that's not a zero for me. Yeah, so you're feeling pretty good if you're Kyle Schwarber. I feel like that to me sounds pretty motivating to get this done with the team you're already with and have every reason to want to come back to. They're checking all your boxes, and for the dramatic standpoint, do you want to go into a locker room where there's now reported cases of conflict between starting players? Or the Phillies, where the most outward source of drama was Nick Castellanos putting Rob Thompson on blast, and by all accounts, he's not going to be here next year. So
right.
You're in a comfortable spot if you're Kyle Schwarber, and I would be motivated to get it done.
Right. And Kevin Long's still there. Kevin Long has helped him reach another level, and kind of forget, he was the MVP runner-up last year. It's just a tremendous season. All right. One other thing on Schwarber, and then we'll move on. So, if the Phillies don't sign Schwarber, whose agent does Dave Dombrowski call first? And essentially, what do you think would be the best backup plan? If he's working the other side of this thing here at the winter meetings, who is he negotiating with? Who would you want to see him most be talking to? Justin, who would be tops on your radar in terms of finding someone to fill the shoes that Kyle Schwarber is leaving in Philadelphia?
Well, there is a cornucopia of options out there, honestly.
It's one of the arguments actually in favor of not re-signing him, if there are, for the ones that there are, right?
Right. There's not a wealth of Kyle Schwarbers out there. There are no Kyle Schwarbers out there. So give up on that replacement idea already.
Yeah.
And just kind of go forward with, what are the other ways we could do this? And honestly, you just read a couple of the headlines, you get a pretty good glimpse into exactly what the Phillies are looking at as far as backup plans. When you see a headline like Phillies have interest in Cody Bellinger, as reported by Jeff Passan at ESPN, that is a Phillies backup plan. That's not something that's going to happen if they re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Bellinger is obviously being pursued by multiple parties, including the Mets as well, because, that pool that has Bellinger, Schwarber, Alonso in it. The Mets and Phillies are both in that pool too. They're all bumping up against the same floats.
Yep.
And the Mets, Angels, who aren't real, the Dodgers and Blue Jays are all said to have been interested in Bellinger as well. He's a left-handed hitter. He had a good 2025. He had 272 with an 814 OPS. 125 weighted runs created plus, which I know, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me either, other than in the broadest sense. But the point of bringing that up is that from 2023 to 2025, he's had a weighted runs created plus about 12 points lower than Kyle Schwarber, just to get a sense of where that comparison is. Honestly, the easiest way to compare the two of them is that they're kind of opposites. In that you're replacing Kyle Schwarber with a guy who makes lots of contact, doesn't strike out a lot, and doesn't have a lot of power. But Schwarber, has heart, hits the ball, hits the crap out of the ball, and strikes out a lot.
Well, I'll say this about Bellinger. He has some power. He'll hit close to 30. It's not like he's a Alec Boehm type guy where you can't figure out why is he only have 15 home runs this year? He'll hit in the upper 20s and maybe even touch 30. He does have that kind of power, but it's obviously not like you're talking about Schwarber power. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, and that's no problem. I did misspeak. To characterize him as having not much power is incorrect. What I mean is that is an aspect of his game that has definitely deflated in his problem years, which are part of the negotiations you'd be talking about. So, but both of them are good against lefties, and Bellinger's home road splits with the Yankees were a little suspicious, given the difference between how well he hit at Yankee Stadium versus otherwise. But no qualifying offer, so no penalty for signing Bellinger.
That's big.
Ultimately, you just get a costly right fielder who shouldn't, but probably will play some center field, and he's going to give you some offense. So I saw that headline this week and was like, all right, there's a pretty nakedly broadcasted Kyle Schwarber backup plan. And I think, there's been others that have popped up. But honestly, some of them have come off the board. I started thinking, I was really going down a hole. And I had worked out a whole thing for Joanston Garcia and Wilyer Abreu, and they were coming here, and Bowman Marsh were going to Boston, and then there was some prospects getting sprinkled in, and and then we don't have to think about that anymore after that Red Sox Pirates trade this week. But yeah, I think Bellinger, that was at least I wanted to do the Bellinger breakdown, honestly, because they hadn't been formally linked yet, him and the Phillies, and it's like that's a way you could go, another form of offense that wouldn't get you the same, but would I think be a part of a larger collection of moves. They come in with like some medium small ones after this to try and just find that offense, but Bellinger would be a big piece of that.
That would be the direction that I go. That would be the guy that I would call. And I want to get your thoughts on this too, Liz. I wrote about this for the Good Fight this week, what the Phillies would do if they don't sign Kyle Schwarber, as did every other Phillies writer on the planet over the last couple of weeks. But looking at, if you take emotion out of it, and you're looking at like, you really want to change things up. You want the offense to function differently. You want things to be a little different. You want to remake the outfield. Like that's been one of the major problems with this team. And you want to free up the designated hitter so that you can have some of these other veteran players like Bryce Harper be able to play more designated hitter. You remove a DH only guy, which kind of gives you more flexibility with the roster and moving different guys around to do different things. Over the last 3 years, Cody Bellinger has been worth 12 wins above replacement. Kyle Schwarber has been worth 9. Bellinger is a plus corner defensive outfielder and an okay center fielder. Like you can put him out there and it's not going to kill you. They're both going to get about the same kind of contract, it sounds like. Bellinger is 3 years younger than Kyle Schwarber. He plays a position. He plays in the outfield. Again, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. So again, if Kyle Schwarber wasn't who he is and as important to the team as he has been over these last few years, if he didn't have this clubhouse aura, if he wasn't so ingrained, and if it was difficult to imagine him leaving, and you could still make the argument that they should go after like Cody Bellinger rather than Kyle Schwarber, even given all of those different things. But I think I think more than Kyle Tucker, who is going to get a contract for way more than he's actually worth. There's no doubt in my mind, whoever signs Kyle Tucker, and right now the Blue Jays, I think, are the prime contender for this.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be overpaying by a lot, by more than most of the other free agents are going to pay.
Yeah.
And you're buying low, technically, on Kyle Tucker. Like, and you're still going to overpay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So, yeah. Liz, anyway, you kind of agree on Bellinger?
I do. Only if they can't sign Kyle Schwarber. I mean, after the mourning period is over and everyone in the Phillies front office has stopped sobbing at their desks, they should go after Bellinger. I mean, my one issue with that is that it would be a part of a larger outfield retooling. And I guess if that's what you're committing to, that's what, they're committing to. But then it's that plus other moves to continually, you can't replace Kyle Schwarber, but you're trying to, in the way other teams try, to replace his production. And you don't have to do that if you sign Kyle Schwarber, because you just have that. And maybe you focus on, you can open up your qualifications for the outfield, as opposed to this guy has to hit some home runs because we've lost our premier home run hitter.
Do you think you would, it's fair to say that Cody Bellinger, like swapping him into right field over Nick Castellanos, the two of them come from the same subgenre of like guy that's like sleepy cat and a sunbeam kind of guy on the Major League Baseball circuit? I was just thinking like they kind of have some overlap persona wise.
Yeah, Bellinger isn't as out front with he's a little quieter, but I think he does have the same type of vibe for sure.
Yeah. Part of my Kyle Schwarber plan involves another free agent who I think is a little under the radar, and we're going to talk about some of our under the radar picks here in just a second. But before we get to that, I think that's where we can kind of leave the Kyle Schwarber thing at the moment. JT Realmuto, and it kind of sounds like that Kyle Schwarber really wants to play with JT Realmuto. Like apparently they're like best friends. And They want to continue playing together.
Can you keep track of which of these guys are best friends and which of them are blood enemies and which of them were best friends but now aren't speaking to each other? Because honestly, there's a lot of yarn to connect with these guys anymore.
We can't escape it with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. There's going to be Phillies best friends that, you heard about Brandon Marsh and Alec Bowman. Like, are they no longer friends?
Every year is different.
Every year
is different. It's not a workplace like we think about it. It's a workplace where at the end of it, you get to a certain point in the year and everything is over and you don't see each other for like 4 months.
Long time. Yeah.
And then when you all get back together, it's only some of the people from last year. It's only some of them and not all of them. And so there's new people.
Summer camp.
I was just going to say that. It's just like summer camp. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Exactly like summer camp, only it's their job and they play baseball.
And they're paid a lot of money to do it.
And they would love it if they heard us describing their job as adult summer camp.
Yeah. Adult summer camp. Yeah. I don't care. Come on the show. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
all right.
please.
So JT Realmuto, I will say, do you guys think he signs this week as well, or does his free agency last past this week, Liz?
Well, I think it lasts past. I mean, unless Schwarber makes it a thing, he's like, listen, you got to sign him. Like, I'm on board now, but you have to sign him. You need to bring him back. Unless it's that, I think he waits a little bit longer on the market. I don't think the Phillies jump on him immediately. I mean, maybe if the market's really hot, they have to snap him up, but I don't know what it's going to look like for Realmuto, despite knowing he's still very, very good. A lot of teams are still so very, very scared of an aging catcher, and it's hard to dissuade them that they should be.
Yeah. Justin, does he sign this week?
I mean, part of me is like, if you're going to sign Schwarber this week, why not just sign them both? Because what is the ultimate? At this point, we've been round and round and round, the oak tree. Is that a saying? Anyway, we've been around and round on this enough times.
It's a song. That tie a yellow ribbon round the old. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you. Yes, perfect. Yeah, from when we were all children. That classic ballad.
From when my parents were teenagers.
Honestly, every one of these conversations is just like, the guy we're talking about is the guy they should sign. We can talk about alternatives all day long, but really, and to be totally honest, I'm not excited at the idea, not 100% only excited at the idea of Realmuto coming back, like being a catcher and being at this stage of his career. But I'm also not super excited by what else is out there. But then you got to leave room for the potential of any replacements. And I feel like we're probably going to mention it at least in the next couple minutes.
But mention it now.
That Harry Ford deal. I mean, look, the Phillies were never linked to the Mariners' catching prospect, Harry Ford, who was, I believe, ranked number 3 by MLB Pipeline among minor league catchers, who I think everybody started eyeing up because, well, Cal Raleigh gets signed, locked into a 6-year extension. Everybody's looking like, okay, well, is there a next man up who's going to be of interest to people? And yeah, that was Harry Ford, who is kind of like Realmuto-like in a lot of ways, in that he's not power first. In fact, they're trying to work with him to develop a power swing. And also not in the sense that he's an excellent defender, because he's not. He's got some work to do in that department. He's got decent pop for a young catcher. He's only 22 years old. But what the parallel I'm drawing is that he's actually known for base stealing and speed as a catcher. And again, young catchers, they can do that. He stole 35 bases at AA, but then, he got bumped up to AAA and only managed to steal 7. So that's an aspect of his game that's perhaps dubious at this point. They're still kind of just working to figure out what kind of player he's going to be. But that's what the Nationals, they need to get their catching situation under control. And Ford is a guy that can give you all right, this is a guy we can plan around. And so I was looking at him in a world where the Phillies don't re-sign Realmuto. And honestly, what that would have taken in a trade probably would have taken less than I thought it was going to take.
Based on they gave up Jose Ferrer, who's a left-handed reliever. The Phillies have 3 left-handed relievers.
So many.
Being courted, Alvarado or Matt Strahm would not have worked there. I mean, I don't know. I would have given up. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I would have done that. And so if we're exploring that world where the Phillies say, or he signs elsewhere, or the Phillies just say, you know what, we're interested in investing in the future at this position at this point, instead of waiting 4 years down the line, whatever deal he's getting, to start, a new era of catcher. Then, for somebody like Ford was intriguing, but I've mentioned Edgar Caro of the White Sox before, also 22 years old. He's that guy who does everything pretty well and is in a lot better, has improved his physical conditioning from 2024 into 2025. A switch hitter, line drive hitter, and as I mentioned, famously popular with the pitchers, and finds a way to just communicate with all of them, and all the stuff you want to see in a catcher. But another name that got thrown in this week was Ryan Jeffers of the Twins, who has an interesting plus to his potential. Not in that he's the best guy out there. He's probably a mid-range hitter for a catcher, but he's a great right-handed bat, mid-range, so he wouldn't cost as much. But the challenge system that's coming is supposed to downplay his defensive shortcomings. So you kind of have this built-in, this interesting little caveat to his game that might be really beneficial for him in the future. Hopefully he just gets better, but also the sport itself will change in a way that will be beneficial to him. But Minnesota has no catching depth, kind of like with the Phillies. They have Eduardo Tait, obviously, but Jeffers would need an extension. And his home run power kind of disappeared in 2025. So there is, good and bad, and you're just taking your pick from that market of guys, or again, you're just re-signing JT Realmuto because he has best friends on the team and they're all really good baseball players.
Yeah, and I think that's the most likely outcome as well, that this team comes away from the winter meetings with Kyle Schwarber and maybe not JT Realmuto during the winter meetings, but it's going to feel like it's going to feel good that they got Schwarber back and Realmuto back. And it's also going to be a little bit unsatisfying and kind of a little boring because, there is the fascination of new coming in and different coming in. And the Phillies, if they do want to do something new and different, it's going to have to be via trades. And I think that's the other thing to look out for here at the winter meeting. Maybe some of the trade rumors that we hear. I think you just mentioned some good catching prospects that I think the Phillies should be in on if in fact they are on the move someplace. And maybe that's where the Phillies move a Matt Strahm or a Jose Alvarado for one of the catching prospects you just mentioned in other places. It sounds as though one of those three guys is going to get moved because there is a dearth of left-handed relievers on the free agent market this offseason. There are a number of teams calling the Phillies about those different guys. And we've talked about who we think it sounds like Matt Strahm is the most likely of those guys to go, given his salary and given he doesn't have quite the swing and miss stuff that Jose Alvarado does. And it looks like the Phillies want to get a mid-level prospect to fill out the farm system a little bit as well. Although it would be great if they could get somebody who could play on the major league team in the outfield or something. But it feels like too, and this is, Liz, why John Middleton, but why Dave Dombrowski gets the money that he gets. It's to find trades. It's to work deals. And we haven't really seen, Dave has surprised us. The Jesus Luzardo trade was pretty surprising. I think the Joan Duran trade was a surprise that he was able to pull that off. And I think he's got to do that this offseason as well. He's got to find one or two of these types of trades, whether it's moving Marsh, Stott, or Bohm, whether it's moving one of the relievers, whether it's moving, Justin Crawford or Gage or, one of the other, Arun Escobar or somebody like that, to kind of get some new blood going here in the system, because it does sound like the most likely outcome is them running it back in a lot of different ways here.
Yeah, the thought of them running it back is seriously depressing, and getting new blood is really important. It's a good thing that the Phillies did hoard all of those left-handed hitters, because it does put them in an advantageous, place this offseason. But I would love it if the Phillies could accomplish everything they wanted through free agency. But unfortunately, they're not going to be able to, and Dave Dombrowski is going to have to show us what he's made of this offseason. I would be sad to lose Strahm, though after the way the season ended, I'm kind of not. Too unhappy to be losing him. Who would you guys rather them get rid of, Alvarado or Strahm? I mean, not ignoring salary and all that, just purely based on their talent.
It's an easy choice for me. I I didn't see much in Matt Strahm last year where I felt like he was heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
He most of the time did not look like he knew where the baseball was going. And that's okay. Kind of Jose Alvarado kind of has the same feature, especially when he's not on his game. But he also has 98, 99 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour at his disposal that, it could be heading towards the backstop and the next pitch could be, one of those cutters in on your hands and you just never know what's coming with him. He's effectively wild. I find Matt Strahm to be ineffectively wild. I mean, how many times in an outing do you see him oh man, because he missed his spot by like 2 feet? It happens a lot with him. And last year he didn't have the velocity was down. He didn't have the swing and miss. He was effective, but I didn't have any trust in him by the end of the season. I didn't have much trust in any of the relievers that would get you to Joan Duran at the end of the game. And frankly, the little trust was lost in Duran by the end of the season as it rolled around. Like nobody was throwing great in that pen. I would rather hold on to the guy, Justin, that has the better stuff, the swing and miss stuff. And his arm should be pretty fresh because he barely pitched last year.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like kind of for a lot of the same reasons, Strahm, I feel like if you can take advantage of a lefty you don't trust anymore, just because he's a lefty, like teams are going to give you something just because you've got a lefty to offer them. And you can point to a highlight reel in the last few years where Matt Strahm has looked very effective. But I think you're right. He's become another one of those pitchers, from that Taijuan Walker school. It's like, it's okay to mess up, but when you mess up and you're one of these guys, the ball is going over the fence. And that's, that just gets tiresome of seeing in the kind of positions that Matt Strahm was being put late in games and the kind of role they want him to have. So, if he's back with the team this year, yeah, cool, whatever. I do like Matt Strahm. Honestly.
Yeah, I like Matt Strahm.
But he is a frustrating pitcher, and being able to trade him for something for someone the Phillies could use and address their needs. Yeah, that I see a lot of appeal.
All right, let's talk about. We could talk about trades more, but I mean, it's just too much speculation at this point. Like there's so many different guys out there who could be traded. I mean, you hear Byron Buxton's name, you hear Ketel Marte. I mean, I think we all agree those are the longest of long shots. And then after that, the 2 Boston outfielders. I think even though they traded that prospect, like you mentioned, Justin, I still think that Wilyer Abreu or Jarren Duran one of them will probably be on the move in the next few weeks. But I just don't see the Phillies there, especially if they re-sign Kyle Schwarber, because it's, again, another lefty. Although maybe you just want talent and it doesn't matter which side of the plate they hit from. I don't know. You could talk me into that as well. But it's difficult to talk about trades when there's just not a lot of nothing concrete that you can really rest your head on other than who the Phillies might be looking to deal. So let's talk a little bit about like under the radar players. And I'm going to talk about a free agent, one of the guys that I wrote about as part of my non-Kyle Schwarber plan. But I think he works even if you re-sign Kyle Schwarber, because I don't think the contract is going to be one that would prohibit you from doing anything. As a matter of fact, I think it's the kind of contract that Harrison Bader will probably get this offseason. And, that's not who I'm talking about. But I'll let you guys go first. Under the radar players. Liz, do you have an under the radar player?
I don't actually. I didn't get a chance to look at one, and I apologize to look for one.
Okay. No worries. Well, you can respond to our under the radar players, Justin.
I will. Thank you for doing your work.
Yeah. No, I threw it at everybody late today, just FYI. So
let me see if I can steal John's. So we're only talking about one player. He's very bad versus right-handed pitching, but that's because he'll be playing in a platoon with Brandon Marsh. So no problem there. Not very fast, but still a mediocre base runner. One of the best hitters among outfielders against left-handed pitching. He is consistent, and he'd really only be looking for a 1-year deal. And folks, that's a young man named Rob Refsnyder. Oh, interesting. All right. Well, I'm not saying that's the name that would make me like call out of work and be like, "Oh, we got it. We got Refsnyder.
Emergency podcast.
We lost. It's got to be about the platoons now." Yeah. But I can see that being a move the Phillies swing because of the moves they need to make. They're not all going to be like I think there's going to be like an exciting move of some note, of significance that's going to happen. And that's going to be great. I don't think all of the moves they need to make are going to be at that level. And I think this is one way they could go where like they go small on this, but small, but strategic. You can't deny how good of a hitter against lefties that Rob Refsnyder is. You just can't. The numbers are there. They support the argument. And if you want somebody to hit against lefties, there might not be a better person for that to be exclusively their job on the market, honestly. So that's an under the radar pull. I feel like you could swing that into a platoon. It's not going to get more season ticket packages sold, but it is going to fill out the roster.
So I'm going to give you a free agent who would not be a platoon guy, and maybe it's not. I don't know if he's it's not a guy that nobody's ever heard of before, or kind of like a sub guy who's only at 300. This would be a guy who's an everyday starter, but he's a free agent nobody's really talking about, especially for the Phillies. And that is Jorge Polanco. Second baseman, third baseman, infielder Jorge Polanco.
Is this not the
No, I'm laughing because
what's that?
I was laughing because I was like, oh, who's he going to say? Who's it going to be? And I was like, wait, I read the show sheet. I know who it is.
You know
why was I saying I could steal it?
And I'm just commenting on the fact that I think John really loves Jorge Polanco.
Well, I mean, I do for what the Phillies are looking for right now, because he's a switch hitter, hits lefty and righty. He plays second base and third base. So in this scenario, you're probably moving Alec Boehm or Bryson Stott, depending on, what it is you can move and what you can get, who you can get more for. Obviously we prefer Boehm because he's only got 1 year left on his contract, as opposed to more team control for Stott, and Stott's a more valuable player. Nevertheless, he had an 821 OPS last year, a 134 OPS plus, which, by the way, his OPS plus was higher than Cody Bellinger's OPS plus a season ago. He's an everyday player, had 26 home runs last year, which, if you're talking about second base, third base, Phillies haven't seen a player hit 26 home runs for second base since Chase Utley, and for third base since when? Roland? I'm sure there's been somebody since then, but I can't think of one. He's a switch hitter with a strikeout rate of 15.5% last year. So he doesn't strike out. He's projected, MLB trade rumors had him at 3 years, $42 million, which is $14 million a year average annual value. I think that's a price tag the Phillies could swallow, even with Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto in the fold. And I think, he gives you that contact. He gives you some power. You don't have to worry about platoons. He's lefty, righty. You just kind of have to figure out what you do at second base and third base. He could also DH for you if you don't bring Schwarber back on occasion. He did a lot of DHing last year for Toronto. No, was it Toronto? It was Seattle. Seattle. I'm thinking it was Seattle, right? Jorge Polanco for Seattle. Yeah. Anyway, that's my under the radar guy. Liz, who do you like better? Who wins?
Who I like better? I think I like who wins? I get to choose.
Who wins the under the radar argument?
I mean, it's tough to choose because Justin's choice does fill a need. But I feel like John, I will say, John, you didn't present any cons. And I don't believe, I think Justin was a little bit more honest.
To be fair, mine was mostly cons.
It wasn't mostly cons. You said he hits left-handed hitting. You were very convincing. John,
wow.
You did not mention any cons, and I'm like waiting. So what are the downsides? Because if there aren't any, why haven't the Phillies signed him already?
All right, well, he's 32, so you'd be signing him. Actually, he'll be in his age 33 season next year. So you'd be signing him. Next year be age 30, his age 32 season. So you'd be signing him for his age 32 season. He had a career year last year for Seattle. The year before that, he only had an OPS of 651 in 118 games. In 2023, he only played 80 games for the Twins and had a 789 OPS, so it was better. So he's kind of been up and down. A 751 OPS for Minnesota in 2022. He's at 826 before that, a 658 before that, so he's a little bit inconsistent.
Hey, I'll throw this out there for you. He was one of their biggest walking strikeouts in 2024. And he cut that down a lot in 2025. So, you could frame that as a negative that, he's a guy who can strike out 137 times in a season, but that's actually pretty anomalous in his career. And this year he dropped that by 50, 60 strikeouts, if not more.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah, based on that, I feel like the power is a real plus. The idea of someone being able to hit left-handed hitting consistently is ideal, though. It's hard to choose. In an ideal world, they could do both of these because I don't think Refsnyder's going to get that much. Is going to command that much money. Or am I wrong?
No, 1 year deal for sure.
And that's a 1 year deal that I could see them doing that I'm not angry about, because it's not a player who spent most of last year on the IL with like a amputated arm or something. This is like an actual 1 year deal that could work out for the Phillies. Yeah. It has a better chance of working out.
Jorge Polanco had an 888 OPS against left-handed pitching last year, batting from the right-hand side of the plate. So also was good against left-handed pitching. Not as good as Refsnyder, but you also would be able to play him every day, and it wouldn't just be as a platoon.
What the heck? Let's sign both of them.
I can't wait to hear how I'm the big Rob Refsnyder guy on the Phillies podcasting.
Big
circles.
Double R guy Justin Klugh has been into Double R for quite a while now.
Choo choo baby, here comes the Rob Refsnyder. I almost said the wrong first name. Railroad.
The Refsnyder Railroad. I was trying to think like choo choo. I'm like, how does his last name relate to railroads? And I'm like, oh wait, in no way.
You gotta let the lore
there we go.
You gotta let the lore unfold. Come on now.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with Ref Riders. All right, that's the fan group.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that. We can go with
I'm
that.
I'm kind of leaning towards Refsnyder, so we can use that more than Polanco.
Yeah.
And by the way, with the name thing, I thought you were going to go like my mental block with Tanner Banks's name. I think Connor Banks, Tanner Bucks, whatever his name is, doesn't matter.
You look at his baseball card and his name is different just every time.
Greg Smith. All right, a couple other quick things. There was a report last week that the Phillies have interest in Tatsuya Imai. I'm not saying his name right. Tatsuya.
No, that's
Tatsuya Imai. Okay. Am I weird for thinking like this has a real chance of happening? Based on
we broke this down. I don't know if this has a very close chance of happening. This is the closest chance I think the Phillies have to a guy, as we laid out last week, to a Japanese player of this caliber than ever before.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing about Imai too. Like they don't need him. Like as far as they could use him. There's no doubt about it. Like they were willing to offer Yamamoto a $300+ million contract a couple of years ago, and they did offer him that contract. I don't know that this guy would get that same kind of deal, but I think the Phillies...
It's not like a Pirates offer either. That's real money.
No, it's real money. And I think...
Tradable for goods and services in all stores around the United States.
That's right. That's correct. He's reportedly open to playing for an East Coast team, which means the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Phillies would likely be interested and a part of that conversation. The Phillies have been making inroads in Japan. We all talked last week about how he wants to take down the Dodgers and would be looking for an opportunity to do that, which is a whole lot of fun.
Join us.
But I think this is a guy that...
Not taking down the Dodgers.
Stop it.
Oh, man.
You want to take down the Dodgers? Do it with us, the team that just got totally dragged by them.
No other team beat them in the playoffs either.
Right, the problem
I sure hope he's not listening right now.
The problem is every other team lost to the Dodgers too.
He's like hands above the contract, like holding a pen. He's just like stops, and Dave Dombrowski's trying to like turn off a laptop.
This podcast does not get translated into Japanese. This does not get translated into Japanese, as far as I know.
It's like shutting the window and stuffing like papers underneath the crack of the door, trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Anyway, I think that with Imai, the Phillies would be willing to go way over their budget simply because it would be like planting a flag. Like we find anybody else, like there's no way they're signing Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, and another big name like free agent like Tucker, Bellinger, Alonso, something like that, although we wish they would. But for Imai, or maybe one of the other Japanese sluggers, but specifically for Imai, I think they would do it. I think they would eat it because they would see it as a long-term buy into a market that they've been trying to get a foothold in for forever. And so that's why I think regardless of Schwarber, regardless of Realmuto and whatever else they do, they're going to make a real offer to this guy. I think that I have no inside information. None of us do. But I think I wouldn't, based on what they did with Yamamoto a couple of seasons ago, I think they would make a super competitive offer and that they would be willing to pay it, whatever luxury tax implications are, so that they can get in on this Japanese influx because it's a pipeline that has been closed off to them. And if it opens up, starting with this guy, there's no telling what the Phillies. I mean, the Dodgers have won 2 straight World Series on the backs of the Japanese players they've got.
Completely. That's 100% true. Especially this year.
Yeah.
I think you're right, John. I mean, a signing of this kind would mean more, so much more than just the player who was coming to the Phillies. It would do everything you're saying, and that was why the excitement is kind of there in a simmering capacity, because it's like, yeah, this would mean not only did the Phillies get this guy, but they also, like you're saying, now can have a proof of success, reaching, like, having these guys come to them and them reach them. But also, the other side of that is you are acquiring a great young starting pitcher. That would make me feel really good about the rotation, even before, you got to watch a guy adjust to Major League Baseball, and there's no guarantee that he actually ever does. But the numbers indicate, and the scouts indicate, like, yeah, you're going to get a good mid-range, mid-rotation starting pitcher out of this guy. And I don't know if the Phillies aren't, I don't think, prioritizing that stateside. Like, they're not actively out there hunting for top of the rotation starters. I think Dombrowski even said, like, yeah, get ready for, like, Vargastown, kind of like starting pitcher shopping, if anything like that happens.
Where everyone wants to go.
If this motivates them to sign this guy, and he happens to be a guy who can be a starting pitcher, then, like, that's probably, that's going to be the best possible outcome for them fortifying their starting rotation this winter. And that's an area of concern for me. You don't know what that's going to be. And the reason it's feels like more of a concern was because it was the backbone and the biggest strength of this team last year. And to have it go from being like this, pretty close to a sure thing that you can rely on to get you through a game where the offense isn't clicking. Now there's a lot more question marks. We all know that. So bringing this guy in is sort of a reinforcement, bringing in Imai, it'll be a lot of fun. And if it worked even like a little bit for him to be like a number 3 starter or something, he would be so popular because, again, few people, even the ones who've heard his name, have watched him pitch. And he is so distinct. Again, arm slot so low, 10 inches lower than the average Major League Baseball delivery. Tacky side armor with pitches that just do whatever they want.
I love it.
It would be something. It would be a phenomenon. It would be I think it would be like a movement in Philadelphia for sure.
No, completely.
I love it. I hope it happens. I really do.
Me too.
All right. One other thing before we wrap up here. Nick Castellanos, talking to the MLB Network this week, says,
"Good. I was just like, can't wait to hear this.
Good. I have space for this after the Harper stuff for sure. Let's go."
He was talking about next year. He's obviously still signed to play for the Phillies as of right now. He is a
right, not a free agent.
I keep thinking he's a free agent, but he's definitely not.
I forgot Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto are not on the Phillies, and Nick Castellanos is on the Phillies.
Phillies.
Right.
Yes, let's try to remember that going forward.
Yep. And so it's unlikely he's getting traded this week. It sounds like it could be a while because teams are going to wait for the Phillies to probably just release him.
Because teams have access to the internet where Baseball Reference is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have eyes and maybe watched last season or played a game in which Nick Castellanos was on the opposing team.
They happen to watch, John, I know you're tired. They happen to be watching one of the very few times he wasn't getting a clutch postseason hit for the Phillies last year and thought that was just the entirety of his game.
Yeah. It's all looping, reached out doubles down the left field line. Absolutely. For him. So he's now saying he's open to playing first base. He would embrace it. He was embrace playing first base, guys.
Yeah, sure.
Because there aren't enough of those guys. What is he doing?
I mean, that's something. I feel like his agent probably tells him, like, hey, man, you want to make yourself marketable? Play more positions. That's going to open up a new pathway for you. If some Marlins type team is like, you know what, we've decided we need a guy who can also play first base. Well, you're still that guy. And you know what? He probably can. Well, no. He doesn't play his current position well, but you can put him there, and it's like, fine. If you're on a team where you don't care about being competitive first base defensively, great. He can probably handle that for you. He can stand there. He's one of those guys that's transitioning to first base because it's not the hardest position to play.
Yeah, it's very easy. As Ron Washington told Scott Hatterberg.
Didn't say it was easy. None of them are easy. It's not the hardest.
It's not the hardest. No, it's not the hardest. Absolutely not. Anyway, just thought I'd drop that in there. Nick Castellanos, future first baseman for the Kansas City Royals next year. Book it. You heard it here first.
There you go. I can see it.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah. Pittsburgh Pirates. Colorado Rockies. I don't know. That would interest me.
Let's see how his stuff plays in the thin air of Colorado.
I will say the one interesting trade rumor or the idea that has gone on there is Brenton Doyle, the Rockies center fielder. We talked about him a little bit. The numbers last year were ghastly, especially away from Coors Field. But he is an intriguing player that you wonder if you get out of the toxic Colorado Rockies organization. Although it sounds like they're changing things up there. I don't know.
Yeah, but, sure.
Yeah, we'll believe that when we see it.
Anyway. Certainly throwing stuff at the wall.
Yeah,
they're certainly saying a lot of things.
They are. All right, let's wrap up this winter meetings preview with some final thoughts here, guys. Justin, start us off. Hit us up with some final thoughts as we get ready for an action-packed winter meetings in Orlando.
So I had brought up the topic a couple weeks ago of teams in baseball history who had made the postseason 4 times in a row but not won a World Series. And I had a bunch of notes on those. We kind of ran through them at that point. So again, I'll just bring up one aspect of this that I didn't talk before about. And John, I'm going to lean on you a little bit here because I would like you, if you can, to like translate some of these player names into comparisons that perhaps other people would understand in the context of their role on their team.
I mean, like older 90s. People would understand?
It's like we're talking about a mid-90s baseball team.
Sure.
And I feel like you're going to be able to contextualize these players for us because that'll be important here.
Yes, I will use my old guy knowledge. Let's do it.
I had run through teams like the 2004 Athletics, the 2015 Tigers, the 2022 Brewers, and the maybe just those 3 teams. Yeah, those 3 teams. They all made changes. They all did things, and ultimately none of them really worked, especially the 2015 Tigers, who fired Dave Dombrowski, funnily enough, after that in August of that season, and then also sold everybody at the trade deadline because they were under 500.
Yeah, took a nosedive.
So the 1995 Braves is actually what I wanted to look at because I was like, okay, but there's got to be a success story, right? A team that went to the postseason 4 times and then in year 5 did win the World Series. So there's an outlier here in that the only reason the Braves season had ended the year before was the same reason everyone's did, which was the players' strike. So that season was cut short on August 11th. The Braves were in second place behind the Expos by 6 games. They were 68-46. Greg Maddux was Greg Maddoxing. The offense had Fred McGriff, Mark Lemke, David Justice, Ryan Klesko, and the rest of the rotation was kind of performing a little more softer than you'd think. Lots of 3s and 4s coming out of the bullpen, ERAs. They were slow starters 2017 on June 4th, and they took off and won their whole division by 21 games. So, with the question being like, what did they do? Like in the broadest sense, what kinds of moves did they make in, year 5, saying like, all right, we have a playoff team. How do we win the World Series? So, John, the Braves 1995 season began without some of their starters from the year before. They lost Terry Pendleton, Dave Gallagher, and Bill Pacoda to free agency. Now, obviously, Terry Pendleton is a key member of that offense, but I think by that time, maybe he wasn't anymore and was actually like kind of on the way out. And I also just didn't know what the context was for those other guys. Were those big losses for that Braves team, or were they just guys they didn't have anymore?
Just guys they didn't have anymore. They'd kind of be like, not even a Harrison Bader level, like lesser guys than that. Yeah.
And then they have Roberto Kelly and Tony Tarasco were traded to the Expos for Marquise Grissom. That was another big change for them. Grissom was their starting center fielder at that point, and he was a pretty well-known entity, I think, by 1995.
Yeah, he was a really good player. I mean, he kind of replaced Otis Nixon, who was in center field for a really long time for them. He was a decent player. Made a couple of all-star teams. Not an elite player, but one of the better center fielders in the National League. It was a good. That was a good move.
So they also signed Mike Sharperson, Dwight Smith, and Mike Stanton. And then they kept all 5 of the same starting pitchers from 1994. So those 3 guys, I'm assuming
mid. I mean, they're fine. I think Mike Stanton is the name I remember the most out of all those guys, but I couldn't really tell you specifics.
So what I'm trying to do here, that is like, there's maybe comparisons to make here, in that Pendleton, key part of the offense that just wasn't key anymore, and they moved on.
Kind of like a Real Muto.
Kind of like a Real Muto. Okay, all right, yeah, I can see that too. That makes sense. And then the acquisition of Grissom. I mean, obviously the Phillies are looking for a new center or a new outfield involving a center fielder. That one's almost a 1-to-1 where they could go the route of acquiring a center fielder of his caliber. I mean, who is that? Is that like the best center fielder available? Whoever name escapes me at the moment. Like, it's not Jake Myers.
No,
but it would be like
Well, Harrison Bader is the best center fielder in this in this free agent market. Now you look in trades, he's not at the level of Byron Buxton, at least in terms of talent. Now in terms of like output, because Buxton's been so hurt all these different years, Grissom overall was probably more productive because he had more time on the field. But I'd say it's kind of like he wasn't even as talented. Like Cody Bellinger is probably more marquee than Marquise Grissom. So kind of like in between a Harrison Bader and a Cody Bellinger type player.
All right. Well, I mean, that was, I think, like they didn't have to do much, I guess. Like the conclusion I wound up drawing was that like, if they're keeping their entire rotation the same, which I mean, Phillies didn't do that, but like it would have been in their best interest to do that if they could have just, if Suarez wasn't kind of considered out the door. They're also a very strong starting pitching team. And they've got these, a couple of key moves to make to address areas of weakness where guys have fallen off or where they just need to improve. But otherwise, they kept a lot of the stuff that worked or the stuff that even wasn't working as well as it should have, believing that it would improve. And in most cases, it did. So the Braves just in 1995 were trusting what they had and also just making strategic moves that also seemed to have worked out as well. They did go on to win the World Series. So I don't know. Did we learn anything here? No, it's more just like these teams have a lot of parallels to draw. And it's like sometimes the decisions they make with the options they have available are the options they have available are what determine their ultimate fate, because the Phillies don't have these same options. They don't have the choice to trade for Marquise Grissom. That guy's not out there. So I don't know, like it ultimately might be a fruitless exercise, but it is kind of curious to see the Braves they felt like they could hit some buttons and pull some levers. They didn't have to reinvent everything. So maybe that's the lesson here, that the Phillies don't want to have to make rip out the copper wire and kind of like not rebuild, but retool this roster, but just make a couple of, finesses and perhaps a more aggressive move to revitalize the locker room. I don't know. Like this has been a tough study for me.
I'll say, I think the move that the Phillies could make that was the closest to the Braves going out and getting Grissom is like if they would trade for one of the Red Sox outfielders, Duran or Abreu. That probably would be the most similar type of move in terms of the ability of the player. Like you said, I mean, Ryan Klesko developed in 1995 into a stud player. I mean, his first season as an everyday starter was 94 for the Braves, and he was really good that year. But obviously, the first playoff team that he was a part of in 95, the Braves were developing some young guys along the way. And that's what the Phillies really need to do. Like they need like Aiden Miller to come through. They need Justin Crawford to come through. They need Andrew Painter to come through, because the Braves were developing guys too, like Steve Avery along the way. You had Kevin Millwood later on, but not for 95. But you're right, Justin. I mean, they stayed the course mostly and added a couple of pieces here and there. Now, there were fewer playoff spots to compete for, so it wasn't as long of a postseason, but, it was also,
a whole new division that year too.
Yeah, exactly. So it is an interesting thought exercise, and it's different. The playoffs are so much different now. You have to win so many series and so many games, and there's so many opportunities for your team to go into a slump at the wrong time, like the Blue Jays at the very end of the World Series going into a slump. I mean, it's just, there's only so much you can do. But I think you're right. The lesson is they brought most of their team back in 95 and 96 and 97. Just kept going on. All right, good thought. I like that. And that's a good exercise and something everybody we want to run it back. I imagine Braves fans were just like, oh, God, with these guys again? They're never going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liz, final thoughts.
The holiday season is upon us. It's a very important time of year for your local makers and artists and crafters, artisans, all that. Please patronize your local makers markets and buy gifts for your family from them.
I like that. Very nice.
Yeah. My husband and I spent the whole day out at makers markets and had a really lovely time.
Very nice.
All of them offered alcohol, which was fabulous.
There you go. All right, everybody, look, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. Hopefully, we will be back this week in some capacity. Any of us will be back in some capacity for an emergency podcast or two. We'll see. But, certainly if the Phillies make a big signing, we'll be back to talk about it during the course of the week. In the meantime, you can catch this episode of the podcast. If you're listening to us right now and you'd like to watch the show, go subscribe to the WHYY YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, subscribe to WHYY, and you can find the Hittin Season podcast right there, and you can subscribe just to our podcast so you can watch us on your smart TV. And of course, for those of you who are watching on YouTube first, and you don't know that we're on the audio podcast, we're on Spotify, Apple, wherever it is you get your podcasts, you can find us there. Once you're there, leave a 5-star rating, leave a review, let us know what you think of the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin Season.